Well, you'll need a glass of water for this conversation we're about to have right now. Oh, yeah. So you have yours handy. I have mine too. Well, today is 22/3/22. Yes, it's a unique date going by the number, but it's also World Water Day. And the theme for this year's commemoration, but I call it celebration, is groundwater, making the invisible visible. Now, I'll tell you about a 2019 report, a federal government report, which says that, yes, 70% of Nigerians have access to basic drinking water services. So that leaves 30% out. Also says the amount and quality of water for individual use is lower than the required standard, and it puts it to an average of 9 liters per day for an average Nigerian. But this one is shocking, that 1/3 of the population drinks contaminated water at home. I mean, lots of questions, lots of concerns. You remember that song about water not having an enemy? Well, let's have this conversation this morning with Mr. Saliu Ahmed. He's Managing Director, Benin Owena River Basin Development Authority. He joins us live from our Benin studio. Well, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program. I do hope, I'm sure you've had water this morning. It goes to speak to how important this conversation is. But 2019, that report came out. You are in this sector an active player. Today, how far would you say we have come in ensuring that everyone has access to potable water?
Thank you very much for having me. It's indeed my pleasure to be your medium on this day when the entire world celebrates World Water Day. Water, you know, it's basic to the survival of everything, every life, everything, plant and animals, all over the world, apart from the numerous other services that are derivable from water. The fact is, between 1919 and today, a lot more awareness has been created on the issues of water and the reason why there should be a sustainable management of our water resources. The Federal Ministry of Water Resources and all its agencies, including the Benin Owena River Basin Development Authority, has been in the forefront, drawing attention to the issues that is the level of water and water supply across our country. And on this day in particular, when the entire world celebrates World Water Day, you know, the issues are even more relevant. Water is life. Water sustains life, and therefore there is a need for everyone to be on board in ensuring that our management and handling of water, whether it's on the surface or under the surface, is done in a sustainable manner that guarantees access, to others. This is a fact, and in Nigeria, yes, our access to water has improved from year to year. We've also tried to draw attention to the involvement of the private sector, especially to invest in water, because water is no more a charitable good. Water is a resource that is exhaustible, and therefore it needs handled with care. Water should not be wasted by anyone, anytime, because when you waste water, you are depriving somebody else of access to water. Like, water can also be described as a right, a human right of everyone and everything, because like I said, every life depends on it. The investment in water needs to be far more than we have seen at all levels of government, local to state and the federal government. That is why the Federal Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Hussein Adamu, has been in the forefront, drawing attention to the need, for greater investment and greater attention, to water to ensure access to all across the country. In Nigeria, excuse me.
My apologies, I thought you had landed. There was something, my colleague quoted when he started to talk, the fact that 1/3 of Nigerians don't have access to the right kind of water. In fact, if you, I'm sure you have some more of these statistics that speaks to access to contaminated water more. And you've talked about the fact that, you know, various levels of government are playing the roles that they can play. One of the roles that one expects that governments can play is ensuring that people don't just dig water, boreholes and all of that anyhow. You spoke to surface water and groundwater the other time, and there is a report written by a couple of gentlemen who are based in Benin, where you are right now, talking about the fact that the more we dig boreholes, the more we put our water resources at risk. Could you speak to that, if you agree with them, and what is it that people do not know, you know, concerning this particular issue?
Yes, it is true. Presently, the practice of sinking boreholes in Nigeria is not regulated. And this is one issue which the National Water Bill that the Ministry of Water Resources has been driving seeks to correct. There is indiscriminate sinking of boreholes, maybe to meet a need. Of course, our public water supply systems have not risen, you know, to the needs of water across our country. So a lot of people have resorted, you know, to sinking of boreholes at any point and at any time, you know, around their homes. But it needs to be regulated. First and foremost, a number of people sink boreholes wherever they like, not minding the fact that they could, by such boreholes, be polluting even the underground water. There are supposed to be regulations about where you can sink a borehole, how deep boreholes should be, and all of that. And once one borehole is sunk, how far apart from that one another one can be sunk. But so far in the country, all these have not been practiced. And of course, that puts everyone in danger. Because if you sink a borehole, for instance, where it should not be, for instance, close to a soakaway, which is close to the toilet in your home, you are indirectly polluting the underground water and therefore endangering everybody else. We even find that in some cases, some industries have formed the habit of putting their effluents, you know, sinking boreholes just to evacuate the effluents from their industrial practices. And this endangers everybody. You find some persons who are, practicing aquaculture, you know, emptying the wastewater through boreholes directly into the underground water. This endangers everybody and it's not right. And this is why we've been saying that the sinking of boreholes must be regulated, because apart from the geological impact of indiscriminate sinking of boreholes, the underground water resource, which is a vast source of fresh water, everybody also needs to be protected in a sustainable manner.
But I think this makes it more dire, the fact that we're staring, you know, climate change in the face, and there have been dire predictions about what might happen if this trend goes on. And I wonder for government, I mean, this is happening, by the way, because there was a void, and people had to fill the void. I mean, I remember those days we used to have running water corporations across the country, but I mean, they went moribund, as it were, and people had to find a way to get water themselves. So, I mean, people had to meet those needs to get boreholes or sink wells and have, you know, the pumping machines and all of that and the rest. But I'd like you to talk to us about, you know, this climate change, the challenge we're facing with climate change, with the indiscriminate sinking of borehole. I mean, I imagine what's happening to all the aquifers around. If we keep sinking anyhow, I wonder what might happen in the coming days. Don't forget, this affects food production as well. I know that, I mean, your agency has some work around that. So talk to us about the coming days, what we should be doing. You say we need to regulate it. Who should be regulating it? What should people be doing? How do they meet that need which they have if government is not forthcoming?
Okay, I'll respond to you on two fronts. First and foremost, it is a responsibility of government to regulate, you know, the indiscriminate sinking of. And this is what the National Water Bill, which has been in the National Assembly from the 8th Assembly to now the 9th Assembly has been seeking to do, in a way that state governments, agencies should regulate thinking of borehole. But having said that, I must also admit that the investment in water has not been adequate. What you find is that, yes, like you said, in yesteryears, we used to have access to, pipe-borne water in our homes or, along our streets. But over time, population has grown and far surpassed the capacity of such water systems. And besides, we had also taken for granted the fact that a liter of water costs a sizable amount of money, and we were not paying for water. We were just, using water from those public water systems as though it was free. Over the years, as population grew and the sizes of such public water works would no longer respond to the water needs of the increasing population, and people were not paying for water, state governments were no longer able to sustain the service of, first and foremost, providing power to power the water systems, providing treatment chemicals to even treat the water before it's put out in the mains or supplies to homes, or even maintaining the dams and the entire gamut of infrastructure, that ensure that the water, is treated and pumped to the homes. So over the years, because these investments dwindled, the systems could no longer be maintained and sustained. So that's the situation we're in. And that's why we've been talking about the need for better investment. And one way to secure this investment is to bring in the private sector, which is what our National Water Bill has been seeking to do, to guarantee that when the private sector invests in water, they are sure of returns. We pay for airtime. I wonder why we do not consider that it's also necessary for us to pay for water. So your question on climate change. Of course, climate change also imperils our access to water. But we think that the vast groundwater resource that we have would also be our response, to be able to meet the impact of climate change. And this is why this year's theme of the World Water Day, groundwater making the invisible visible, is key.
Well, he also asked the question around what we should be doing in the immediate short-term and long-term future, because you have told us what we have not done that has brought us thus far, and you have spoken to private sector intervention and all of that. So what should we be doing now? Because it would seem like we probably don't even understand how severe or how dire the issues we have on our hands are, especially given the number of boreholes that have been sunk, the risks we have already placed ourselves in, and he also spoke about the aquifers that we have already compromised with the indiscriminate sinking of boreholes. In the coming days, what should we be doing, and what are the consequences if we don't?
To answer you directly, what we should be doing from now going forward is to first and foremost recognize that water is key to our common existence. Second, that everyone has a right to water. Where you have access, learn to manage the water at your disposal in a sustainable manner so that others can also have access. But when you waste water like ice, you're denying somebody else of access, same access to water. Then we need to invest in our water works. We need to invest in our water system. We need to have more of our urban centers connected to public water systems where water flows in every home. Boreholes are actually not the best way out. It's an easy resort, that a lot of people have come to recognize. But that will not be sustainable over time. There is a need for better investment.
My apologies, just a quick one. You talked earlier about regulating activities of sinking boreholes and all of that. Whose responsibility is that supposed to be? And is there a role for local governments in all of this water talk?
The responsibility for regulating the indiscriminate sinking of boreholes is that of the state governments and the local governments. And that provision has been made in the National Water Bill and is under consideration, where a commission will regulate the practices that surround water. But the state and the local governments are the ones that will have the responsibility to regulate the sinking, where, how deep, and all of that. And even who sinks the boreholes, because even the drilling of boreholes is a professional thing that not everybody knows how or what to do. So all of that revolves around the state and local governments. Fortunately, water is on the concurrent list, of our constitution, and it empowers the federal government to provide bulk water through dams and all of that, while the state government undertake distribution and reticulation, across, as well as generating revenue to maintain the water works.
Clearly, we need to pay more attention, Mr. Ahmed, to that water bill, added to the fact that last year, 3,604 people actually died as a result of cholera, which, as we know, is largely caused by taking in contaminated water. So clearly, this is a major issue on our hands. That's way more than COVID we had within that same period. But in the meantime, we'd like to thank you so much for your time. Mr. Saliu Ahmed is the Managing Director, Benin Owena River Basin Development Authority. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on this International Water Day.
Thank you for having me. Water for all. Thank you.